Right. So for this next part, let's just run through making an animated logo that might have more than a few pieces to it. So I'm going to try not to get too crazy with it, but I do want to show you some cool stuff that you can do. And after you see it, you might decide, hey, I want to change this. So I have a little bit more of a, I wouldn't say complex logo, but it has a lot of different elements to it. So I have a little illustration of myself, and then I've got the text. And what I want to think about, you do not have to go that elaborate, but what I want to think about is what do I want this to do? And this is where storyboarding comes in. And though it's not really a requirement for this one, though you could do it if you are planning some stuff, we're going to get into it more later. But what you want to think about is how do I want this to animate? I want it to end up looking kind of like this. But how do I get the logo to this look? Or maybe I want it up here or something. But in any case, I want the head, I want text, I want this kind of thing. Now, if I bring the whole thing over all together, and there's multiple ways, there's more ways than I want to go over right now. We're going to do more stuff later. But there's multiple ways of bringing this over. But the easiest way to think about it, my suggestion for right now, is that I want to bring over things in separate pieces sometimes and then reconstruct it. If it's just going to be like this, then fine. You could say the whole thing's going to be spinning or something. But I'm thinking I want something a little more elaborate. And what I want to do is I want to have my little logo guy. And let's look at the layers I created for him. And I have different versions of him so I can animate him a little bit. So we can kind of go here. He's like shocked and surprised. And then he's like, oh, okay, I'm cool again. That's all right. And I can make this as many alt versions or break it up. So I could do this a few ways. I could break it up so that I export every piece out individually and then animate the individual pieces. I could also just export this out as multiple frames that I can switch between. So in other words, he has one where he's like, he's like this, and maybe, I can change it. Um, but what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to actually bring it over. So these are separate layers that I can turn off and on to get the look that I want. And this will give me a nice little way of doing things so that I can have a little more control in there. I could do it. Oh, I'm gonna do the pupils inside of there and animate them so that they're like looking around and doing all sorts of stuff inside of there. But I think I'm just gonna do it so not too complex, but just to give you the idea. So basically what I did is I broke these into layers and named them, and that's important. And then I made the shapes inside of here so that I know what they are. So in other words, this one I didn't do yet. And this one has an extra group. I don't really need that. Let's just take these paths and put it right there to get rid of that group. So the layer is the group for the eyebrows. And this one is double click, R eyebrow. Excuse me. And that would make this one left eyebrow. Once again, you don't have to do this. You don't have to have a animated character, but I want you to see. So each layer is a section I want separate that I can turn off and on. I have the mouth O, which I can turn off and on, which you can't see because it's underneath the mouth smile, which is just this shape here. The O is underneath it, so all I'd have to do is just, and it fits right inside. So all I have to do is just turn the smile off and on to make him do this. The eyes are kind of the same way. Inside the eye group, I have the circles, and then I have the pupils. So I could make it, if I wanted to, that he looks like this, but that looks, I guess that's okay, but I have it sort of like, for what I'm planning, that he's going to go kind of like this, like, his eyes are really big, and then he's just going to blink like this. Now I could be pretty elaborate and have all sorts of different expressions and phonemes for the mouth to give different shapes and match them to lip syncing. Not going there. There's other ways of doing it, but just wanted to show you this because you might want to do something like this later on. I've got the head all as one, which is basically these eyes here, which I could have separated, but because of the way I laid it out, these guys are actually tucked away. So when these are turned on, it doesn't matter if these eyes that are with this eyes closed is on because they're behind it. So I've layered. So this is my background. This is what's always going to be on, is this guy, the head, which has the goatee, the eyebrows, and the shape of the head, right? Then I've got my eyebrows right here, and the benefit of having them as a layer is inside of After Effects, they'd be in one shape, and I'd be able to move them up and down. I've got my O, which is turned on underneath the smile, and then I have the smile that goes on top, so if I shut that off and on, it goes like, huh? And then I got my big eyes, see? So I've basically just, I would add a layer, I'd name it and make the shapes on that layer and stack them so that they're in the right order so that I could actually put them on top of each other. Okay. So I just reorganized it and made a few layers. That is it. And when I saved this, essentially what I did is I saved this file. So let's try this. Let's do a save as. And let's just call this one tie head frames, or let's just say parts. That makes sense. Okay. Now, if I want to keep everything, pretty clean, remember I could do a save as and make sure that this is not inside of my project folder right now. So I might want to put it into my project folder. Let's see. And I'm just going to make a new folder in here called imports for the things, or let's say, let's just say vector images. Or we'll just do that. So inside the vector images, I'm going to put the tie head parts. Everything is named. My layers are here. And this may take a second, but now I'm just going to use my demo that I did and show you how we can have different compositions in here. So ideally, yeah, I would make a brand new one, but I just want to show you how this works. So for yours, you don't have to have this. You can just start a brand new one. But and just make sure that you start making, folders or whatever. But I'm just going to go and I want to make a new folder, and I will call this one vector images. And I'll now with that one, I want to right click, import file. Now, when I go to that file, this is a little interesting. So like I said, there's multiple ways of doing this, but I'm going to do it sort of a longer way, but I think it might make a little more sense to do it this way. So it'll make it a little bit easier for you. So we're going to select that one. We're going to import, but we're going to be a little different here. So I'm bringing it in as footage, but I don't want to merge it flat. I want to choose the layers. And what I'm going to do is bring in, there's my eyes open, there's my smile, there's my mouth O, there's my eyebrows, and there's my head. So those are all the layers. But I can only do, with the way this is, one at a time. Later on, I'll show you how we could do it differently, but for right now. The footage dimensions is based off of, do I want it to be document size or layer size? So document size is going to fill up the whole area and just fit the way that I had this logo, because remember, I actually put this logo in this document here. And how did I create that? Was File, New, and instead of Art and Illustration, I went to Film and Video. And then deciding what resolution, I want 1280 by 720, which was in the View All Presets and you just find the one that would be HDV 720, which is 1280 by 720. So I already have it selected. That's why it's there. And when I opened and created that, I simply went to my logo sheet, copied what I needed, and then just pasted it in, and then started going from there. And normally I would just go from that, but what I'm doing is essentially I'm going to break all this up so I have more control. So that's basically why, not to throw you off, but I'm breaking it up so I can animate it better. But this is the file that I saved out of, which I create, which is resolution-wise, so that when I scale it up, when I bring it in, so in other words, when I go into here, and let's say I wanted, this was mine, copy, paste, that's too small. So that's where we go in, oops, shift, and we line it up, and then so we can see how big that's supposed to be. And that is going to give you a much, much better way of fitting it. Control Shift D, oops, Control Shift D allows me to turn off the transparency, so it's a little bit easier. So this is how big it would be. So I want to scale it to that size so I don't have to worry about it when I'm actually in After Effects. And all I did on that version was just got rid of the extras, just moved him in the center, and then started working from there. So back into After Effects, I've got footage, choose layer, and I'm just going to go one by one to bring these in. There's eyes open. And for right now, I'm just going to use document size because I'm going to crop it back down when I do some different things. So I know they'll be all lined up the way they should be. So document size, eyes open. And there's the eyes open. It's not in here. I haven't made a composition yet, so that's okay. Now I'm just going to repeat until I have all of those layers. Same file, import, choose a layer, mouth smile. Boom. Right click, import file, same file. See the redundancy. Import, choose layer, mouth O. Boom. And I just keep on going till I got the whole thing. Boom. And one last one. Import file, choose layer, head. Boom. And now you'll see I have all of them. See? So I'm going to take all of these, shift select them, and just drag them into vector images so that I can keep them nice and organized. And then I'm going to make a composition with all of these guys in it. And so what I can do is let's bring this in and let's make a composition. So I'll select all of them and drag it into the make a new composition. And what it's doing is it's like, well, how long is this? You know, and you know, it's kind of like, well, that's 2 seconds, that's 10. Let's boost it up to like 30 seconds for right now. Because remember, we're working different. This is different. This is the old one. Single composition. Yes, I don't want to. This would do a composition for every single one of these. I don't want that. I just want them all in one. And now here they are. And now I just have to make sure that they are in the same order that they are in here. So if I go to my layers, we could see eyes open, mouth, smile, mouth O, eyebrows. So that would be eyes open, blink on top. Let's see. Then we've got mouth smile, bink. Then we've got mouth O. The head is at the bottom and the eyebrows at the bottom. And now I have the exact same setup that I had inside of Illustrator. And each of these is a separate layer. So now we've done that, we've got it in. And once again, if you were just doing it, you'd only have to do it once, and you would have brought it in as one flattened version. And you can do that and just save it as the flattened version and just literally flip between one image of his eyes open, one image of his eyes closed. The only reason I did this is because I basically just did it so that I could have a little more control. So if like I want his eyebrows to move up and down, I can now move his eyebrows, see, up and down. But if I didn't want to do that, last thing, I would have just gone in. I would have hidden. So let's say it's this one. And I would save this one as Ty Smile. Or, this would be Ty Smile. Then I would maybe call this one Ty Surprised. And gone through different variations, maybe one with the eyebrows up. And then just did frames that I could do. This one, I just broke it apart a little bit more so I can have more control over all these separate pieces. So in the next video, sorry this was a long one, but in the next video, what we're going to do is then we're going to set this guy up quickly to animate what we want.